Welcome to Extraordinary Ability with your host, Candice Ackermann. Every episode celebrates foreign nationals with extraordinary abilities who qualify for O1, EB1, and IW visas. Learn how you may qualify, especially if you have been denied other U.S. visas. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on www.visalawpros.com. Now here's the host of Extraordinary Ability, Candice Ackermann.
Hey everyone, it's Candice Ackermann. I'm founder and managing attorney of VisaLawPros.com, and we are wrapping up season 1 of this podcast with a very special guest who we have on the show today. It's also pre-Thanksgiving, so I want to give a shout out that I'm very thankful and grateful to have amazing clients that I work with who are so individually extraordinary and interesting. And I'd like my special guest today to introduce herself and tell us where she is from.
Hi, my name is Virag Gulyas, and I'm from Hungary originally.
Amazing. And Virag's extraordinary ability is that she is known as a content and program coordinator. Really, truth be told, her own personal story is what gave rise to her prominence in the field and her eligibility for O1B classification. So I'm going to let her share a little bit about her own story because she knows it best. And I don't know all of it, actually. I just know the parts that made her qualify for visa status. So I'm learning today a little bit more about my client together with you, all the viewers in Facebook land, and soon to be posted to LinkedIn and YouTube. Virag, please share a little bit with us about how you got into content creation and program creation, and tell us a little bit specifically more about the nature of the work that you do.
Sure. First of all, sitting here with you, it means that we did it. That my dream was actually achieved, and I'm really thankful for you and for your support and your positivity and help. And how I got here was a rocky road. Obviously, I think most people who go through, a visa process can attest to that. And for a long years, I was just doing my job. I was doing what I was believing in, and I didn't even know what are my chances to, legally stay in the US, or what are my options in terms of visa options. So that is where you came in the process. But if we track back a little bit, how my journey started, I grew up in Hungary in a smaller city/village. Back way before social media existed. I grew up as a aspiring classical ballet dancer. So that was my career trajectory. And I graduated in the Hungarian Dance Academy. I got a contract in the Opera House in Switzerland, in Zurich, as a ballerina, classical ballet dancer. But after 3 years there, I wanted to shift gears. So my whole childhood was about this. I was successful. I knew I was talented, but I always had this duality in me that I wanted to do something with my brain, not only with my physical, bodies, and work on that. Also, it's a really toxic environment, really, really heavy. It's not just the beauty that we see from the outside. And when I moved back to Hungary for 1 year, I started another bachelor degree just to, have something more than my bachelor in arts. And that is when I started to face a sort of indirect discrimination, in the terms that HR managers asked me, if I stop dancing, will I stop this job as well? And it was so, heart-wrecking in a way, because they don't even know what it means to become a ballet dancer. And somehow in a society, it was still, a post-Soviet country, the mentality was not ready for career changers. That was the norm, that you start a career and that's how you die. That's what you do for your life. And then when I was 25, I came to the US first through my next job, which was, I was a consultant beside the European Union for an agency. And we often came to the US for exhibitions, cosmetics and regulations related and so on. And I felt like whenever I talked with an American, when they heard my story, how I changed careers, they were like, oh my God, so you are this and this and this. So they could attribute positive features for a career changer. And that is, I didn't have a dream to come to America prior to that. that was my big changing moment when I was like in my mid-20s, and I was like, oh my God, finally someone really understands what it means to change a career, and maybe I can benefit from this change, and I can also utilize my skills. So then I came actually for 3 months under, like my ESTA option is the visa. I wanted to see more about the culture, more about how people function here. And I studied a lot of like free classes and paid classes at NYU regarding journalism, content creation, event management, and all these related things. And then slowly but surely, I started to feel this urge and fire in me that I think I want to know more. And in parallel to this, I'm a non-Jewish person, and this is where my story comes in. I'm not,
Here we go.
yeah, but
Get your
I,
popcorn ready.
exactly. But I started to work with Jewish nonprofits, and that's a whole story in and of itself. It started with a guy, yes, but it never ended with the guy. So the whole story comes that I really grew up with anti-Semitic remarks and stereotypes. So when I started to date this fellow who was an Israeli Jew, and we lived in Belgium, I started to, ask myself some hard questions, going into deeper at why stereotypical views are engraved in us, who taught me that. So I started to write about this, and eventually, totally like unintentionally, but it led me to my current career path. I started to work with Jewish nonprofits. And then because I saw that there might be something here in terms of my own self-seeking, but also I could bring added value to Jewish nonprofits as a non-Jewish person, my first thing was, okay, I have a passion. I have like a natural desire to understand more, but I wanted to be credible. So I applied for a master's degree in New York. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to get started. So everything was, new. It's a cultural shock. I was in my mid-20s or even like my late 20s. And I got accepted at Touro College, actually on scholarship. So this is how I could come to the US and really live here and try what it means to live here. So I did a whole master's program that was really, really, demanding and heavy. I was the first non-Jewish person ever doing this program. And then in parallel, I started to also observe other nonprofits, and whenever I could just, help them in any way possible. So this is how I got put on this trajectory. It was not even an intentional choice. And so to wrap up my story, to put it in also in a nutshell, this is how I ended up with you, because I started to also get more interest from other people for my work as the non-Jewish person who is talking about Middle East, Israel, anti-Semitism, and so on. And then this is where we are now. I hope this was short.
So one thing that I do like to ask some of the clients is, before we do an O1 case, you have to show that you are prominent in your field. And maybe you want to discuss a little bit more about what the field actually is, not just content creation, but can you share with us and the viewers 1 to 3 or so of things that you would consider achievements or projects that you worked on that you were starring, leading, critical to the fruition of these projects? Because that is one of the categories that we used to prove your O1 eligibility, was that you served in a starring, lead, or critical role on behalf of distinguished organizations in the past, and that you will be doing that in the future. We'll get to that part of things in a short while, but share with us some of the projects that you've worked on as a content program creator that of which you're proud and which gave rise to your prominence.
For sure. I mean, it all started honestly with a social media platform. And when we talk about content creation and content development, social media is a really great platform on that. And I started to share my journey, and I started to share my expertise, and then with the master's degrees also like a knowledge in this topic. And that really started to elevate my presence in this niche in a sense. So like that is where I got viral videos, people following, and that led to other things. I started to really publish articles. So I think by the time you and I met, I had like 100 published articles in various platforms, both in the US, in Europe, and in Israel. I write in English and in Hungarian, so that was also like an added value. When I went home to Hungary, slowly but surely, also people in this niche, started to understand what I'm doing. And I became also like a connector kind of between Israel, Hungary, and the US. So whenever I speak at home, my expertise at what I'm gathering in the United States is helping them to understand what's happening here. And when I'm speaking in the US, it helps me that I'm Hungarian as an Eastern European. I also bring, that kind of experience culturally, heritage, tradition, also historically, especially when it comes to Jewish diaspora. Another thing I'm really like, I knew that was like a pivoting moment is when after the master's degree, you have a chance for OPT. So I was doing that. And with that, I actually worked within the United Nations to one of the nonprofits that is within this field with Anti-Semitism. So that was for me a huge experience. Also, I knew that is, okay, really putting my career to another gear. And then I started to also speak on the side. So I was invited, to college campuses and other events to share my journey and also help other people understand how we can actually defeat our own stereotypical views. So it becomes a little bit of a psychological work, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, you are dealing with people on their own personal journeys. So whenever someone is in front of me and they say, they grew up with this prejudice against any other minority group, doesn't even need to be Jewish, the questions that you need to ask yourself are very similar. So I think these are like the major milestones that I can recall. And then obviously it came, for example, there is a Jewish civil rights movement that was founded or initiated rather, since it's a movement in New York. And I had the honor to be at the core group who started that, and that is Anti Hatred. So today, they really grew up into something beautiful and big. So it's really an honor that I could be at the inception of that. So these are just a couple of pointers here.
Okay, I have a couple of follow-up questions then. I do like to ask the clients. I don't actually recall how we were connected, not so relevant, because I'm always willing to be receptive and open to working with people who, are talented and want to work with me. But you could share, if you don't mind, for a few minutes, just with the viewers, what was your experience like working with me and my firm? And then separate to that, what are some of the projects that you're currently working on or aspiring to work on? And I do think I would enjoy hearing a little bit more about, I know there's a spotlight right now on college campuses, specifically dealing with some of the concerns and issues that you contend with as part of your content creation. Do you see that as an ongoing area of focus? And if so, is that something that you're going to be working on? And how do you see the work that you're doing as, what would be your aim in contributing to the dialogues and conversations that are currently going on the campuses right now? I'd be curious to learn about that. So that's a lot. Go ahead.
That's a good question. Okay, so I actually do remember how I ended up with you, and that's our common friend Ido. I remember a good couple of years ago, he introduced me to you, and it took a while until you and I actually kicked off the project. I think it was partially, and maybe that helps, a couple of viewers, I was not believing in my own abilities in this sense. It's like, it's a lot of ego thing. When you said the visa name, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I can, and then you were the one, okay, Virag, show me what you have. And based on that, I can tell you. So just switch off your ego. And that is why I think eventually, and then COVID came and stuff, but I think I kind of lost like 2 or 3 years also in the process. But
Wow.
and this is also channeling into answering the question, my experience with you. I don't think that if you were not that supportive, I would have actually believed in that I have a case. So I really full-heartedly thank you for that, because your support, positivism, enthusiasm, and yet you were absolutely realistic on all steps through the process. But you really kept, my heart beating in a way that, okay, we can do this. And the whole process was very clear cut. So from day one, you showed me what I need, what to do. So it was really like a joint venture in that sense. It was like a tango, we danced together. You said this, I need this. And also, I'm sure, if legally I'm not saying it correctly, but has to be mentioned that also in my case, there has to be at least one organization who is really supporting your work. So in my case, I really need to mention, JNF USA and the team there, and especially Russell Robinson, who trusted me that, yes, my skills are extraordinary in that sense, that they are supporting that my expertise is needed in the United States and that my work brings added value to the United States, So that is really important. And that, again, channels me to your third question, that through JNF USA, I am helping speakers also to go to college campuses and to other events, especially now when the political situation is very heated and delicate and sensitive. My task is really to find speakers with a specific expertise in the field. So let it be academia, let it be how to talk with college students or other segment of this big field, and then place them in front of the right audience. So that is one aspect of the work. And now with the situation of the war, it is really, really busy. It is really a responsibility in a way, because we are educating a new generation. And also on my other leg, which is me being a speaker, I definitely would like to continue going on college campuses, because again, as a non-Jewish person, as someone who went through my own, questions, again, I'm coming from a post-Soviet country. So in the States, I have this people here in the States have a reluctancy to understand what it means to be an immigrant, what it means to come from an Eastern European post-Soviet country. So I feel like there is a lot of story that are factually based, and I can, teach those younger audiences. So the projects that I'm working on are many, and thankfully it's really satisfying and very close to my heart. So everything is, like under the umbrella that we started, and yet it's like a whole different level because of the visa. And it's just like, yes, I'm hoping, to give back as much as I can to the society that hosts me now. And I don't take that for granted. And obviously I'm extremely grateful, to be here.
I just want to circle back to something that you mentioned about the being extraordinary and not believing in yourself, or however you phrase that. And that's something that I do encounter a lot, is sort of the therapy side of the work that I do, which is to say that when people, they feel that perhaps they may not qualify, but extraordinary ability, the elements are legal elements, and it's a term of art, extraordinary ability. That is to say, if you meet at least 3 out of 6 of a list of eligibility criterion, and we have the evidence to back it up, then, it's really a legal assessment as to whether somebody or not is extraordinary. It's not what the layperson thinks of that term, and it's not subjective. It's somewhat of an objective standard. So I have that conversation a lot where people think, well, I don't think I qualify. I don't think I'm extraordinary. And I say, well, I'll decide that. And then, the USCIS officer will decide that after I present it along the lines of make the legal case for you. So I think that's a heartwarming conversation that I have pretty often. I do also have one follow-up question for you regarding the fact that you highlighted that you yourself are not a Jewish person, but that you've dedicated yourself to creating content and programming that supports Jewish causes, or combating anti-Semitism is one of those that I'm mindful of that you do. And I just was wondering if you could maybe hone in on that a little bit more and crystallize for us and the viewers, what is it that you think uniquely, what is your unique contribution to that conversation as a non-Jewish person? What value do you think that you being a not Jewish person adds to the advocacy work that you do? Because I think that's really fascinating.
I think I would answer this question differently if you would have asked me like a month ago. So before the war broke out, it's a really different sensitivity right now. I think so in peace times, I believe that being a non-Jewish person fighting anti-Semitism, that shows the scope of the issue. Meaning whenever a society is going towards anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, that's a reflection on the society, and it's a trouble. What starts with the Jews never stops with the Jews. So me as a non-Jewish person speaking out against it, there is this psychological perversion, unfortunately, that basically you are more credible because you are not Jewish. And that goes for any minority group, that if there is like the Black community and the white person stands up for them, it is psychologically, we are wired this way. So I'm very much aware of that. And it's unfortunate, but that is the situation. also, coming through my own journey as someone who changed perspective on Jews at large and in Israel, that is definitely helping, because I can trigger you with the questions you need to ask. And again, I'm mindful of the audience that it's very, here we have diversity. So no matter which minority group you belong to or towards you have a stereotypical view, you can ask the same questions and change that perspective. So what was the last end of your question? Because I don't think I answered that one.
I think you did, in a sense. I was just saying that, what is your special sauce, or what do you see as your unique contribution as a not Jewish person to the work that you do in Jewish advocacy, or advocacy against anti-Semitism, I should say, not Jewish advocacy, but against anti-Semitism.
And so now when it's like a more sensitive timing, or that was the second part of my own division here, is again, being a non-Jewish person, yet having also master degrees and, almost like now 8 or 9 years of experience in this field, having visited not only Israel in that region, but Lebanon and also other countries. Again, when I speak with a mixed college audience or at a synagogue or at a church, it is coming from a more personal, actual, tangible experience than many Americans who could not have these experiences, and they perhaps gathering information only through news, which is very hard to filter today. So, I think I can be like a connecting between the gap of regions, and that I feel like that is my added value here.
So interesting. And I started with my gratitude shout out pre-Thanksgiving. I'm going to close with my gratitude shout out. I want to thank you so much for your time and joining us and being on the podcast today. I'm so grateful for the variety of voices and backgrounds and nationalities and stories that the work that I do lends itself to me interacting with individuals from all over the world, all backgrounds, all ages, all ethnicities, all religions. And I feel that very lucky and fortunate that I can use my tools in as objective a fashion as possible to really highlight and showcase the extraordinary ability of each individual and how they will add value and benefit to working here in the United States and facilitating each of those individuals' dreams and wanting to come here. And that's really what this podcast is all about. So I feel very fortunate for the career that I'm blessed to have, for the people I'm blessed to meet by way of my career, and for the goodwill that I'm able to contribute back to my community and to my country by bringing so many talented and amazing individuals here to facilitate their goals and dreams and really rise in their career paths. So thank you so much again, Virag. I'm wishing you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. I'm happy that you're here stateside to celebrate an American holiday. I hope you eat a lot of turkey if you're a meat eater, or a lot of food if you're a vegan. And that I don't know because it's not so relevant. But thanks to all the viewers too for everyone's time. And this is actually the last episode of this season. We're going to take a brief pause and start up again with season 2 in 2024. And I just wish for peace and well-being, and that between now and then, that when we start with a new season, a new year, that will be in peaceful times and happy times. And I bless everyone that's watching and those who are not, that that becomes a reality in the new year. Thank you all for your time, and see you next year.
Thank you again. Bye.
You've been tuning into Extraordinary Ability with your host, Candice Ackermann. Learn how you may qualify for O1, EB1, NIW visas, especially if you have been denied other U.S. visas. Please visit www.visalawpros.com to contact us and for other episodes. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.